Hello and welcome to the 6th episode in our series, The End of the World as You Know It. I'm your guest lecturer, Dr. Scott Mackenzie, and today we'll discuss chapters 4 and 5 in the book of Revelation, written by the Apostle John. Let me do a quick recap of what Jesus told John to write about in chapter 1. Jesus told John to write about the things he's seen, the things which are, and the things which will take place after this. John has already written about what he has seen and the things that are. And in chapter 4, he will begin to write about the things which will take place after this. But will John be shown this future from the island of Patmos? After all, Jesus dictated the 7 letters to the 7 churches from Patmos. Yet when it comes to Israel's future, John had to leave the island because suddenly he looked up and there was a door opened in the sky and he heard Jesus' voice sounding like a trumpet telling him to come up here. Now keep in mind, Paul described Jesus' voice sounding like an archangel and like a trumpet when the church will be taken off the earth into heaven in the rapture. Maybe Jesus will say the same thing to you if you're alive when that happens. Maybe he will say, come up here. But instead of being in a spiritual body like John was, you will be in a glorified one. Again, read 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Okay, back to the book of Revelation and back to chapter 4. When Jesus told John he would show him the future, the things that are going to take place after this, we begin in chapter 4. Remember, the letters to the churches have already been dictated. Then John was suddenly taken off the earth into heaven, and the churches would not be mentioned again, as though they too have been taken off of the earth. Personally, I think John's rapture is an example of the rapture Paul prophesied would happen to the church in our future. Okay, so we're entering the last week of Daniel's 70th week prophecy, a prophecy dealing with Israel's past and future, not the churches. So John, in his spirit body, sees God sitting on the throne and describes what he saw around God's throne. That included 4 angels and 24 elders sitting on thrones. Now, those 4 angels were unique. They had eyes all over their bodies. Each one looked different from the other. One looked like a lion. Another looked like an ox. The third looked like a man, and the fourth looked like a flying eagle. How awesome is that? I've read that these angels look that way for a reason. Some say the lion represented the kingship of Jesus. The ox represented Jesus as a servant. The man represented the humanity of Jesus, and the eagle represented the deity of Jesus. So now John's in heaven, enjoying some awesome worship with these angels and those 24 elders, as those elders cast their crowns before the throne of God. Bringing us to chapter 5, as John continues to describe what he sees, which is a scroll. A scroll secured by 7 seals, maybe wax seals like what they used in ancient times. Class, I was taught that this scroll is the title deed to the earth, a deed that Satan believes is his right to own, because, after all, he defeated Adam in the Garden of Eden. But then Jehovah Jesus became a man, born of a virgin in the town of Bethlehem. He lived a sinless life, died a sacrificial lamb to redeem the world. That's why Jesus looked like a slain lamb. That's how John described him here in chapter 5. a slain lamb claiming the right to take the scroll from the hand of him who sits on the throne. When Jesus took that scroll, all heaven broke loose, starting with the 4 angels and the 24 elders singing a new song, finishing with 10,000s times 10,000s plus thousands and thousands and thousands of angels who began chanting, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain." When they were done, the creatures in heaven and on earth and under the earth, the creatures in the sea began to chant, "Blessing and honor and glory and power be to him who sits on the throne." Now, friends, that's a worship service, one I plan on witnessing one day. Why do I say that? Because I believe in the rapture from John off of the island of Patmos to the earth, and I believe that that rapture represented the rapture of the church in my future and in yours. So with that said, the 70th week of Daniel's prophecy is about to begin. Those 7 years, commonly called the tribulation period, will be broken up into 2 3.5-year periods. This first 3.5-year period will be a time of tribulation, and the last 3.5 years, I think we can call a time of great tribulation. So, with the breaking of the first of the 7 seals on that scroll, we begin Christ's war for the earth, Jesus taking the earth back by force. You see, Jesus isn't coming back to the earth a baby. Jesus isn't coming back a meek and mild servant to Israel, willing to submit himself to politicians and a new world government. Jesus will return a warrior, taking by force what belongs to him, this world. So come back for episode 7 as the war for the world and the deliverance of Israel and the defeat of Lucifer, who thinks he owns this world, begins. Until then, as Jesus once said, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again to receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also." Jesus said he's coming to receive you to himself. The Apostle Paul prophesied Jesus is coming for the believer. We call it the rapture of the church. And so as I end, I say farewell. This is Dr. Scott Mackenzie, and I will see you here, there, or in the air. Goodbye now.